Welcome to the Reimagining Motion Sessions, brought to you by AVL. My name is Maggie Childs, and I will be hosting you through these sessions. In this captivating video podcast series, we invite you to join us on this exciting world of mobility and technology to see where the road ahead will lead us. Our goal is to provide you with a unique and insightful experience where you can discover the latest advancements in strategic technologies that will shape the future of transportation. From the intricacies of vehicle design and development to the cutting-edge realm of software-defined vehicles, automated and connected mobility, and the ever-evolving world of e-mobility, and of course, energy and sustainability. We look forward to lively discussions and engaging dialogues that will unveil the untapped potential of these transformative technologies and their profound impact on our lives. Our guests, who are leading experts from AVL, will share their first-hand experiences, groundbreaking research, and compelling insights, igniting your curiosity and hopefully sparking new ideas. Welcome to the Reimagining Motion Sessions, where imagination meets mobility and the possibilities are endless. In this first session, we will be discussing how AVL shapes next-generation vehicles. We'll be diving into the topic from different angles, from the impact of the new vehicle concepts, the unique challenges of developing EVs and hydrogen-powered vehicles, adapting to meet the changing driver expectations, and their approach to developing safer and more reliable software. We will also look into how simulation accelerates and enhances modern vehicle development. Let's dive in now with our AVL experts and their efforts to improve the future of mobility. Welcome, very, very welcome here, Stefan and Roland. Stefan Bruhnke, you are business and technical field leader for vehicle engineering, and Roland Wanker, you are Vice President for Advanced Simulation Technologies. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's lovely to have you here. So we've been talking generally, AVL approaches electric vehicles and hydrogen-powered vehicles with a future-oriented approach, obviously. But there are challenges, of course, in the research and development efforts when you're developing for something that doesn't yet exist, or the market is not yet as evolved as it would be normally. So how do you address these challenges, and how do you go about developing in the sector?
Yeah, very good question. So may I answer first? So the way vehicles are developed has changed over the last year significantly. In the past, it was more like bringing an existing combustion engine into several car lines or models. You had to do some calibration work, some modifications to that the engine is fitting to the different models. Nowadays, when we're talking about battery electric vehicles, it's all about the battery. So the battery is giving the size of the vehicle, the wheelbase, even the seat comfort, because you have to sit above the battery, is defined by the battery. So you develop more or less the vehicle around the battery. This is one challenge, and this is one significant change in how to develop a vehicle. Another one is that the customers are expecting always the latest features in the vehicle. So meaning the connected car is getting more and more important. And also at the same time, the time to market, because the customer does not want to wait a complete life cycle of a vehicle, which is normally 7 years until you have new features in the vehicle. The expectation is, no, I want it now. So you have to bring solutions, how to bring over the life cycle updates on a regular basis, and therefore new features into the vehicle. I think these are the main changes, and also at the same time the main challenges we are facing in vehicle development.
I think this is so fascinating, because just because our expectations have been raised actually by the industry, the industry is now having to catch up when it comes to development. One of the significant advantages that AVL has in developing has to do with the simulation tools that contribute to the overall vehicle development. Could you explain that a little to me, how the simulation tools contribute to the development process and speeding it up?
Let me try.
Okay, please.
Well, the challenges which Stefan mentioned, this time to market, meaning speed, is complemented by the challenge of the complexity. Also, as Stefan mentioned, the battery electric vehicle is bringing up a whole new field of complexity, meaning what was before more developed on a component by component basis, today needs to be considered on a system level. And issues which are not coming up in the very early phases, in the concept phases of the development, are costing a whole lot of money later on. So the concept phase is gaining more and more importance, and here simulation comes into play. So in the early phases already, the interlinking aspects of the components with each other, considering also the software functionalities, need to be taken into consideration more as we did it in the past. And here system simulation is coming into the play, simulation taking into consideration the mechanical interactions, the electrical interactions, the thermal interactions, all interactions with the software functionalities at the very early point in time. Otherwise, we are facing the issues later on.
Right. I mean, you think of classic automobile prototyping or even just chassis prototyping. We're talking crash test dummies. We're talking driving against the wall, right? One of the big components of this kind of simulating, but also testing in general, is the concept of a virtual twin, where components and systems can, including software, can be matched and simulated and shown how they will work in reality. How does AVL use the idea of a virtual twin in all of your areas in automotive? How does that function with testing?
The virtual twin differs from the concept of the digital twin, which is widely used in the industry quite a bit. The digital twin always is combining certain aspects of data coming from an installed base, of data coming from testing with simulation models. The virtual twin is a bit different because the virtual twin is intended to be fully virtual, meaning that based on the mathematical, physical, chemical relationships between the different components, integrating with the software is available already at the very early stages of the development, where there is no testing data available. This is what we are calling the virtual twin, enabling our customers to put the vehicle on the road, consisting of components, of software functionalities, considering all the interactions between the different components in a very early phase of the development already.
I mean, this saves immense amounts of time and money, I'm sure, just thinking about all the prototypes that get scrapped, probably otherwise.
Absolutely, that's the idea. There is the pressure on time. On the one hand side, of course, this helps accelerating the development. There is this aspect of sustainability also. Reducing the number of prototypes is saving cost, and it's also contributing to a more sustainable development process. And of course, it is also the key functionality which is helping ourselves and our customers in managing the complexity, which Stefan also mentioned.
Yeah. Maybe let me add to that. So the benefits are obvious. So it's not only, let's say, time to save. It's also you can save a lot of time for testing and calibration work, and this saves money and is beneficial for a short time to market. Why it is like this? Because the better your simulation model in the early phase is, the better the component fits to the vehicles. You're meeting your targets, even if they are conflicting. And that means that you save a lot of time in testing afterwards, because your component is just good enough to fulfill all of the targets. So that saves money because you don't overspecify on the one hand. And on the other hand, it's perfect fitting already in the early phase, meaning in the real testing afterwards, you don't have to do that much calibration and work to adapt and modify the component to the overall vehicle.
So that's from the OEM side. Manufacturer side, we have time saving. We have the virtual twin being able to really take all of the aspects of the vehicle into account. But what about the expectations of capabilities that the end consumer have now? I mean, these are challenges that, as you said before, Stefan, people just have these certain expectations. I want a software update every month, or I want things to be capable. I want my car to be capable of more as soon as more is possible. So how does AVL use the functional development approach? This is a term I've heard as well, to meet these challenging demands.
Yeah, I think this is very important, because if you come from the function, so just for example, the customer is expecting if the customer is pushing a button in the vehicle, that there's a reaction in the vehicle. Just for example, if you just go for high speed charging, because you don't have the time to wait that long, then the customer is expecting that it's gonna work. But that has a huge impact also on the lifetime of your battery. Just for example, because if you all the time charge very fast, then maybe the lifetime is a bit shorter. And to take all that into consideration in the early phase, meaning you know exactly if you go for fast charging, then that has an impact on other components like the battery. And to take that into consideration, you can really work to the point that the customer function is working, and you have all the impacts already in the early phase, and you can develop to that at the end the customer is satisfied because you have everything on the radar, and then you can manage it. Yeah.
I think that's also, we're going to talk about that a lot in another one of the sessions about software-defined vehicles. Generally, the fact that it's no longer a smartphone on wheels, but really a much more complex, much more integrated hardware and software system where the software really is at the heart.
Maybe another aspect to that you really have to bring features all the time. You can't, let's say, just bring a vehicle to the market and then don't change anything over life cycle. So meaning the expectation is that you have new features, bring them to the vehicle, and therefore you need really software solutions, because you can update the software very easily. If you have to change the hardware, the control units, for example, maybe it's not the best idea. But if you have enough storage space in your control units, you can just bring new software on the vehicles with new features, which makes the customers happier.
Well, just outside of the updates and the things that the customer really want, there's a lot of things happening now in the background that the customers aren't even aware of. And the key word here is, of course, data. And the data that the software is able to collect, of course, from existing drivers and existing vehicles, gives AVL a whole bunch of other capabilities. So how do you use this data at AVL to unlock possibilities for future generations of AVL developments? But also, what, for instance, do you use artificial intelligence to work with this data? Are these big data sets, small data sets?
Let me try.
Yes, please.
Of course, on the one hand side, there is this concept of a virtual twin, which is helping ourselves and our customers to make all these decisions in the early phase. But of course, there is a whole complementary world of data being collected throughout earlier development, throughout testing ongoing in parallel, or even data coming from vehicles which are already in the market. For example, from batteries, where we can learn already from how is the battery behaving over lifetime, how we are seeing the decrease in its capacity. And of course, all these data coming from the field, data coming from testing, data coming from prior developments, is combined with the virtual twin, and we call it also the virtual shadow. The data is the virtual shadow, and combining the virtual twin with the virtual shadow leads us to something which we are calling a virtual development. And I think this is really the future of being able to meeting the customer's expectation on the one hand side, and our customer's expectation on the other hand side, being fast, being efficient, being able to managing the complexities, and also being able to address the challenges which are coming up out of the sustainability requirements.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to serve these two markets at the same level, but it seems that with all the data collected as well, the feedback loop is just so much faster, it seems. So I have a last question for the two of you, which is, with all of this kind of accelerated change and evolution in mobility, there are a lot of kind of moonshots, and of course also maybe more realistic hopes and dreams that people are having about the future of mobility. If you had one wish or one vision for the future of, or the next generation of mobility, what would that be, just in a sentence or two? You want to start, Stefan?
That we even better learn how to use all the data we have. So as Roland mentions, AVL is very good in measurements. So we have very precise data, and we are on a very good way to use them in the right way. But maybe we can accelerate on that, because that would be so beneficial for us and especially for our customers in terms of time to market, in terms to save costs. So learn a bit even faster to use that data in the right way. That would be
data is only worth what you use it for, right? How you use it. Yeah, Roland, how about you?
Of course, today this whole topic of artificial intelligence is very trendy and very attractive. And looking at that, on the one hand side, in development of vehicles, we have been using elements of that since many years, since many decades even. So there is nothing new about neural networks or machine learning or different types of optimization. That's been there since ever. Now there is something new coming up. There is this idea, this concept of creative artificial intelligence. And of course, this has the potential really to change the way how engineers, how our users, our customers are working. And of course, there is concerns coming along with that, but there is also a lot of potential coming along with that, because it could give us really a chance that our engineers, AVL, our customers, we can concentrate really on innovation, on customer benefit, and at the same time, artificial intelligence could support us in the way how we are doing our work, our daily work in a more efficient manner. That's the vision which I have for that.
Those are very, very inspirational visions, and also I think realistic, ambitious but realistic visions for the future. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much to Stefan and Roland for joining me today and explaining some things that were not quite clear to me before. And also thank you, of course, to you for listening today. We talked about the next generation of mobility and how it's going to change the way, first of all, manufacturers are able to respond to the customer need, but also how AVL works with the virtual twin in order to make testing and simulations better, faster, earlier, so that not only does a manufacturer save money, they can also meet those customer demands that are accelerating just as quickly as the market itself. So thanks very much, and I hope you join us in the next Reimagining Motion session.